Welcome to our program, Astronomy for Everyone. With me in the studio today is Ken Anderson, a member of the Ford Amateur Astronomy Club, and today's program is about the Messier Marathon. Ken, welcome to the studio.
Welcome. Glad to be here, Don.
Now, Ken, what exactly is a Messier Marathon?
Well, a Messier Marathon is when a group of intermediate and advanced astronomers get together and they try to find all or most 109 to 110 Messier deep sky objects within the same night. And it's mostly done between March and April because that's the time of year when these objects are not behind the sun. And it's not done on the coldest, it's not done on the shortest, the longest day of the year, which is in December. But March would be better than April because the nights are longer.
And then these objects would also be visible during that March time frame.
That's correct.
Now, you mentioned intermediate and advanced astronomers. Are those the only people that typically attend this type of event?
Well, this is kind of an intermediate and advanced challenge, because you're trying to find a lot of objects all in the same night, so it's not necessarily for beginners, which are finding objects for the first time.
I see. So it would be these people who have viewed some or most of these objects previously, and the challenge, I guess, would be to find them all on this one particular night.
That's correct, finding all or most of them, because it's kind of hard to find all of them.
Some of them, I understand, are quite dim.
Yes, they are,
especially
right after sunset and twilight and right before dawn. It's a race to find them before the sun rises.
Oh, I see. Now, I understand you have a 5-point strategy that would help you be successful in the Messier Marathon.
That's correct. The 5 points of the strategy, the first is to have a good site. Second is to pick a good time, a good day to do it. The third would be make sure you have the right equipment. The fourth is to train and to practice, and fifth one is to understand the different types of Messier objects and knowing what you're looking for.
Well, let's break down these 5 different strategies. Let's start out first with a good site. I'm thinking that maybe downtown Detroit or Dearborn would not be a good place to do this.
No, you definitely do not want to do it around the light pollution of the cities like Detroit or any other major city. You have to have a dark sky. That's really critical. Here in Michigan, we're fortunate that we do have some good dark sky sites like Lake Hudson, the Michigan Thumb, the Upper Peninsula. We also have, you also want to have low horizons. You want to be able to see to the west for the evening and the south and the east in the morning. So from Lake Hudson, we use the beach site there. Also, since Messier was from Paris, and that's where he did all his observing and where he saw these objects, you want to be between 40 degrees north and 20 degrees south latitude.
That would put you in an optimum latitude zone to be able to see all of these objects.
Right, because that's where he saw these objects, from Paris.
All right, now when you mentioned earlier March, but is that really the best time?
March and April are the 2 best times to look at it. I do have some pictures from Lake Hudson when we were there the last time. So this is Lake Hudson from March 17th. I'm the one with the black jacket just next to the white telescope there. And the next picture I have is from April 5th, and I'm the one in the yellow.
Okay. Looks like you've got quite a good group of observers there.
Yeah, we had quite a bit attend.
Now, I saw you mentioned a telescope, the white telescope. Is there a particular type of equipment that would be better to use for this Messier Marathon?
Well, you always want to stick with your own equipment. But when to observe would be March or April. You want to be on a new moon night, closest weekend to the new moon, and at a scheduled event. And for this year, we're looking at either March 5th or April 2nd as a backup. And that's because the new moon is on March 4th.
So again, you'd have the natural light pollution of the moon out of the way.
That's correct.
For this particular event.
Right.
All right. So
and this is for intermediate and advanced astronomers. We do have beginners nights on the first quarter moon of this the spring, summer, and fall. That's in Island Lake State Park, and then we also have the Kensington Metro astronomy at the beach for the general public.
Right. It's an excellent event that we've talked about on this program in the past. Anything else to tie in with the when part of your strategy?
Yeah, this slide that I have up, this shows the number of objects that you can see from 40 degrees north latitude. So you can see the most objects in March and April. Trying to do it at other times of the year, you're not going to see as many objects.
They would be lost in the glare of the sun?
That's correct. They're behind the sun.
Behind the sun, okay. Now, we talked about equipment, or mentioned it just a moment ago. When you do a Messier marathon, what's your equipment of choice?
Okay. Well, the most important thing, my equipment of choice, I use my 17.5-inch diameter mirror reflector Dobsonian telescope. You've seen that on the show a couple of times. But the main thing is you want to bring nothing new, because just like a sporting event, you don't want to have anything new. You want to be familiar with your equipment, familiar with your telescope, your finders, your binoculars, your charts. It's not the time to try any new equipment. Ensure your tail rad and your finders are all adjusted and aligned the night before. Arrive early and set up your scope. Use your wide field of view eyepieces, and what I'd be using this one. It's a 30 millimeter 82 degree field eyepiece, and this one gives me 61 power and 1.35 degrees field of view. Now if they get iced up, I'll be switching, and I'd probably use this one, which is a 20 millimeter 100 degree field eyepiece, and this gives me 91 power and 1.1 degrees true field of view. Now there are some objects that are really big that you'd need to even have a wider eyepiece. So this is my widest eyepiece. This is a 40 millimeter 70 degree apparent field of view, and this gives me a 1.5 degrees true field of view at 46 power. So I'd be using these on the widest objects like the Pleiades, the Beehive cluster, and M31, 32, and M110. You can see all three galaxies in the same view.
So a good part of the strategy for these eyepieces, you're not looking for high power, because that would give you a narrower field of view, which is kind of self-defeating for this type of an event. And
they're also, using high power makes it hard to see the objects in the field of view, because most are trying to do it manually. So having a wider field of view makes it a lot easier. You definitely have to switch your eyepieces when they get iced up, so don't stick with them. And I also use binoculars to help me see the stars better and the dimmer objects. Also, another thing with equipment is you have to dress warm. So I do have some stuff here. You can see I have boots that I have like double insulated. They keep you nice and warm. I have a face mask. I don't necessarily always have to put it on. Sometimes I have it down by my chin, but I can put it up over my nose. I used to stop when my nose, my fingers, or my feet got cold. And the last thing is gloves. If you have gloves where you have your fingers exposed, if you need just to have one finger, you can stay out a lot longer because you don't get your hands cold.
So dress in layers is key for getting through this entire event.
That's correct.
All right. Any other types of equipment? What about charts or manuals?
We'll get into that in training.
In the training part?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else our viewers would like to know about the equipment before we take a break here? Pretty much covered it, have we?
I think so.
For a size of telescope, you mentioned your 17.5. Can somebody do this with, say, a 4 or 6 inch telescope?
Basically, you go out with the telescope that you had. Charles Messier, I believe he did everything with the 4.5 inch telescope. So if he could see these objects in 4.5 inches, you should be able to see them in your 6 inch or 8 inch or whatever. You don't have to have the large telescope that I have that I go out there with.
I'm sure that'll be reassuring for a lot of our viewers. We're going to take a quick break. If you have any questions or would like to check out for further information, be sure to visit our website. The address is down there at the bottom of your screen. And right after this, we'll be back with more on our Messier Marathon. Welcome back. We're here talking today with Ken Anderson, a member of the Ford Amateur Astronomy Club, about the Messier Marathons. Now, before the break, Ken, we were talking about the 5-point strategy. Next up would be practice and training. How important is that?
Well, that's very important because you're trying to find all these objects in one night. So the most important thing to do is to learn the constellations, where the Messier objects are in, and the stars that you're going to be using to help you find these objects. And observe the objects as often as possible. Practice the starting objects at least a month before. An example of that is M74 is the very first object that you'll be finding. And you can see in this chart it is very low against the horizon, and the Messier object book, which I have here by Harvard Pennington, he shows the beginning objects with the ground, so you have a reference for how high you're looking, because you won't be able to see all these stars. You'll be looking in the twilight. This is actually one of the hardest objects to find in the sky. You're mostly just going to see the background stars. And then a lot of times what I do is I skip, after I try to find this one first, I go to the second object, which is M77 in Cetus, and you can see the whole constellation here. And then after I find this one, I go back to M74. Okay. Also, you want to practice the ending objects. Because these ending, and you can practice these ending objects after the Messier Marathon, because when you're doing the Messier Marathon, for the most time, these are the ones coming up right before the sun. So it's hard to practice these ones right before it, but after it, in April, May, and June, you can practice these objects. Also, you want to practice the Virgo Coma cluster because there are a lot of galaxies all in the same area, and they get a little confusing which one is which.
I would think it would be, yeah. There's that whole big knot of them right there, and to be able to discern one from the other would be a challenge.
That's correct. So with the Virgo Coma cluster, you have the big sky chart, sky atlas that you can use. And for the other objects, basically I use the Harvard Pennington year-round Messier Marathon book as my main reference, because he does put all the objects in the order of the Messier Marathon. So basically you can just flip through the pages. There's 44 charts, and one of the charts is split up into 4 charts by themselves, and that's the Virgo cluster. The other reference which can help you out is learning the objects and what they are is O'Meara's Messier Object Deep Sky Companion Series. And this one, I wouldn't necessarily use it at the time of the marathon, but it can help you all year round.
Help you prepare for this event?
Help you prepare for the event.
Okay.
And he has great pictures on what, hand-drawn pictures of what the objects look like. Also references that I do use at the marathon is this card, which shows me all the objects in the sky and helps me all year round too, as well as Brent Watson's Messier Object Telrad Finder Charts, because I have Telrads on my telescope, and the Telrads do help. The circles on the Telrads do help you see the chart, because they have 3 different circles on there, and there's always some type of stars. You can do tangents, how close the stars are to different circles, and it helps you find the objects really good. And then also I mentioned the Sky Atlas 2000 to help you learn the sky and the constellations, but you don't use this during the Messier Marathon. Now, training at times other than the marathon, this book does have a chart sequence at the bottom of the page. And it says that if you're trying to do this in any other days besides March and April, what objects you should look at before and after. It's really small writing on the page. And what I did on the back of my cover is I just translated all of that, and I do have it up on a website that everybody can pull down this presentation. And if you have this book, you can just print off these 2 pages and put them in your own book, and it will help you train for the rest of the year. You can do that, and this will maximize the number of objects that you would see in that given month. Or you could just do it in order of the book, but you wouldn't necessarily get the most objects in a given night.
It sounds like for the Messier Marathon, you have to consider yourself like an athlete. You have to train and prepare for this, just if you were going out for an athletic event.
That's correct. The slide that I have up now, this one is the very last object that you'd be seeing in the, right before sunrise. This is M30, and you can see it's way down close to the horizon. Now if you're doing this in March, you're more likely to see it than you would in April, because the days are so much shorter by that time period. Also, if you look up to the upper left, you can see M15. And M15, because it's higher and brighter, is a lot easier in objects. So don't get flustered by trying to find M30. Do some of the easy objects before. But this is probably going to be one of the objects that you're going to be struggling with right at the end, and either you'll find it or the sun will come up beforehand.
Okay, so there's your challenge right there, to find them all. Now, lastly, we were talking about these Messier objects. Are they all the same type of object, or do they vary? Can you let our viewers know all about that?
There's 14 different types of objects, and the screen that I have up now, this is from Pennington's book. These objects were seen by Charles Messier and Pierre Macon, and he saw them in 3.5 to 7.5 telescopes from Paris. So they consist of 38 galaxies, 1 double galaxy, which is M51, a galaxy nucleus, which was M54, 28 globular clusters, 25 open clusters, 6 nebulous clusters or nebula, a star window. Some people call it a star cloud, but O'Meara calls it a star window because you're actually peering through the Milky Way to see basically the core of our galaxy. You have an asterism in M73, a double star in M40, 4 planetary nebula, which you should use either ultra-block narrowband filter or an O3 filter, 1 emission nebula, and that, while there's more than that. You got M43, Pennington said there's one, but you have M42, 43, M8, M20, and M17. For those, I recommend using the ultra block filter. They have one reflection nebula, M78 in Orion. For that, I recommend using a sky glow, because that's just reflecting light. In the pictures, you see reflection nebulas of blue. So filters don't really help much there, so it's either nothing or the sky glow. You have one supernova remnant, which is M1, the Crab Nebula, which is the very first one that Messier knew about, and that's why he searched it down. It was a supernova back in 1054. That one you use ultra block, and there actually is one mistake where Messier made a duplicate. So M101 and M102 are actually the same objects. So even though his list has 110 objects, there's really only 109. And Messier actually, this list is actually a series of 3 lists that he made. So in 1771, his objects went from 1 to 45. And in 1780, he expanded it, so now it went up to 68. In 1781, it went up to 103. Now you ask, well, if he stopped at 103, why do we have 109 or 110 objects? Well, in his notes, he did record seeing other objects. So astronomers gave him credit for things that he had seen in his lifetime, even though he didn't put it in his list. So that brought it up to 109, 110.
This sounds like a really exciting event. I'm wondering, though, you've been to several of these. How have you done in your Messier marathon career?
Okay, I've done pretty good. This slide that I was showing here, this one is from March 2007. And in that year, I saw 103 of the Messier objects out of 109, and I also saw 23 extra objects. Now, in the following year, which was in April, because of the shorter days, I was only able to see 99 of the Messier objects and plus 35 other objects. Now, I do have some other references here that are also beneficial, but these are not ones that you would bring to the Messier Marathon itself. This one is the Atlas of the Messier Objects by Ronald Stoyan, and they have very beautiful pictures of all the Messier objects. And I do have this one here, The Next Step, Messier Objects by Ken Ground. And if you ever go to Paris, this would be a really good one to bring, because it does show maps of Paris and events there.
Ken, thanks for bringing this exciting knowledge of this event to our viewers. If any of you have any questions, please send us an email to our address that you can see at the bottom of your screen. And coming up next is Term of the Month with Steve Whitty.
The term of the month for March 2011 is Cosmic Microwave Background Radiation. Well, it's a phrase. Really, it's about the Big Bang. And the CMBR, the Cosmic Microwave Background Radiation, is some of the biggest evidence for our current model of the universe, which is called the Big Bang. In 1929, Edwin Hubble had evidence that the universe is expanding. Galaxies are going away from us. As the universe gets older, it expands. As I've gotten older, my stomach has expanded. Now, as the universe gets older, it also expands and cools, and I was hotter when I was young too. Now, the universe was denser in the past, and I have to say I was a little denser in the past too. Now, they say that everything that is currently visible in the universe today was compacted down to a spot the size of a proton. Now, this leads a lot of people to believe that the entire universe was the size, this infinitesimal size, but that's not true, and I'll get to why that's not true in a minute. Now, After the Big Bang, the universe expanded, and when it was about 350,000 years old, it became cool enough that electrons could bind to protons, forming hydrogen atoms. And at that point in time, light was free to travel across the universe. And we see that light today. It's the cosmic microwave background radiation. And I have an old analog TV set, and they say that about 1% of the little snow that you get if you tune the TV to a non-channel, that's actually from the cosmic microwave background. And it's really cool. We've also got a telescope in space that made an all-sky map of the radiation field, and that's what you saw just a second ago. Now, the CMBR was discovered in 1964, and it won a couple guys a Nobel Prize. And but the radiation, the light that is detected today, has been traveling in straight lines for about 14 billion years. So it's 14 billion light years in radius. So the universe is huge, but the universe is bigger than that because that 14 billion light year area has expanded, and it is now perhaps 156 billion light years in diameter. It's a huge and wonderful universe that we live in, and we know it because of the cosmic microwave background radiation.